Lady and gentlemen, I say lady singular because there's like a single female that watches this. Anyway, lady and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. I find myself with both a problem and an opportunity. To explain the problem, let's go back to past me, and it will make a little bit more sense why I've got an engine sitting here. So I was driving home from the dentist, and as I pulled into the garage, just like in the movies or cartoons, there was a jet of steam that shot out of the hood. A whole bunch of oily water poured out of the bottom of my car. You can see there's a little bit left in the battery tie-down strap, or sorry, the battery carrying handle. So yeah, my engine blew. It's classic blown head gasket symptoms. There was a bunch of coolant, strong coolant smell mixed in with a bunch of oil, and flooded pretty much the whole area of the garage. It was a mad dash to prevent it from reaching the drywall and ruining all this finished work in the garage. So since I have to rebuild this, I figured I might as well swap this engine out for the engine I've always wanted. So the problem is the engine is blown, and that leads me to the opportunity, which is this. So this is not a normal Mustang engine. It's actually not typically found in any normal Mustang that Ford produced, with the exception of the 2000 Cobra R. This is the 5.4 liter dual overhead cam engine. This particular one was out of a Navigator, and it is, the heads, I will say the heads are a little bit different than the special heads that were on the 2000 Cobra R, but generally speaking, this is more or less the same as what they put in there. So of all the cars, the 2000 Cobra R is probably my favorite. So I invite you to join me on this journey as I build the car that I have always wanted to own, because there's no other way I'm gonna get it. So I'm gonna make it happen. Now, I don't have a whole lot to show off of when the engine was delivered. I recorded a little bit of video, so I'll put that in here, but it's not a whole lot. I did make some video, and I wanted to kind of share those comments, because going into this, I had no idea what the procedure was for buying an engine or having it delivered or any of that. So I'll just throw that in here for anyone who's curious about kind of how that all went down. So let's go back in time again to when the engine was delivered. I ordered the engine from OEM Used Auto Parts. So they are shipping it LTL, which I believe stands for less than full load or something of that nature, less than load. It's essentially like a partial semi-truck load of goods. And I paid extra. They had free shipping, but I paid extra for the lift gate and all that stuff, because it's going to a residential address. I do not have a dock outside. All right, we're down here in the basement. It's a mess. I always have a mess everywhere. I've got a cheap, let's see if we can zoom in on the label a little bit. There we go. 1,000-pound capacity. This is a 30 by 18 inch dolly from Harbor Freight. I got a second one here, and so I'm hoping that the delivery driver's got a motorized pallet jack, and he could just take it from the road right down there, motor it up the, oh, I need to move the garden hose, but motor it up the driveway and drop it right here on these furniture dollies. But if not, here's my backup plan. There we go. Look at that. Brilliant. So I'm gonna set the second one behind that one, and hopefully it doesn't fall out from underneath. But I figured I would just tow it with the mower. And this is how I am also planning to get it up the up the road outside to the garage. All right, engine is here. Oh, that's really out of focus. So I apologize for not getting any video of when it was actually delivered to me. There wasn't a whole lot of time for me to record anything, and it all went down so fast that I kind of missed the opportunity. But it was really quick and straightforward. Essentially, the truck pulled up, the guy opened the tailgate, I wandered out, said hi. He put the engine on the pallet jack, and we pushed it up the driveway. So I should say the only obligation they have is to deliver the engine to the edge of your property. So essentially drop it off at curbside. That would have been a little bit of a disaster if he had just left it there. So I had asked him if he would be okay helping, if we could work together to push it up the driveway essentially and get it in here, and he's cool with that. So I gave him a tip. He's a really nice dude, and that's how I got the engine up here. The whole procedure took like, I don't know, a couple of minutes at most. Well, there it is, new engine. So update on these things, they did not work. Thankfully, we did not need them. Let's see, just kind of a comparison thing here. So they're about the height of a pallet. The pallet jack could only lift that pallet up to, like the bottom edge of this thing. So there was no way we could put the engine on here. We tried. I wanted to have it sitting on there. Oh, that's noisy. I wanted to have it sitting on there so that I could wheel this thing around if I needed to, but yeah, just not possible. So he did have a manual pallet jack. There was no motor on it. It was a bit of effort, but not so terrible. We were able to push it up that driveway. Thing is massive. It's like, yeah, gigantic. I did not realize this engine was this big. Okay, just a little quick update. I didn't even notice this before, but they actually, that was super nice of them. I was not expecting that. They left the wiring harness on this thing. They left the looks like they left the injectors and the rails. It was indicated that those were not included. But wow, that is awesome. That's so kind. I'm super thrilled. Hopefully this gives you some insight if you are ordering an engine from somewhere. Now you kind of have an idea of what to expect. So now that I had the engine in the garage, the next task was to get this thing onto the engine stand, which turned out to be quite a bit of an ordeal. Not nearly as straightforward as I was expecting it to be. So we're gonna get right into it. I have off camera started to take this thing down a little bit. So what I've done is I've removed the absolutely gigantic boat anchor of an intake. It is there. This thing is massive. So it doesn't probably look huge on the camera, but it really is. These are size 13, got pretty big feet. And it's, yeah, just huge and gigantic. It's really easy to take off. So there's 3 bolts there, 3 bolts there. This piece comes free, and then there's a couple more bolts around. There's a hidden one in the center. There's a few more, and then this piece comes free. And then this one, you unplug all the fuel injector pigtails and then unbolt the bolts along the sides, and then that comes, oh shit, I set that down on the wire, didn't I? There, that's better. And then that thing comes off when you unbolt the sides. So the reason I had done that is I couldn't find a good lifting plate for this to use for the engine hoist. So there's most of the ones that are available are for the 4.6 liter, which won't really work with this engine, at least not using the bolts along the sides there, because this engine is just physically wider and they wouldn't line up. There was one I found that was universal. It bolts using the alternator brackets and the back two holes for the transmission, but I need these two to mount it to the engine stand, so that wouldn't work. So really the only option that I could think of at that point was to order some metal plates and just do it myself. So I've got these plasma cut from a local company, and I'm just going to use a set of transfer punches, set this intake on top, and just hammer with the transfer punch, make some little divots, and then drill out the holes so we can bolt that up. And then these will get welded along the top, and that'll be the place where we can lift it from. So I first need to go and clean up all the crap in there to make sure that those plates fit. They said the plasma cutter's got like an 1/8 inch margin of error or something of that nature. So I need to make sure that those actually will fit in that space. If not, then I'll have to plasma cut it down a little bit myself with my my own. So I'll get to it. I'm not going to record that because that's boring and no one wants to watch me scrape a bunch of dirt off this thing. And by the way, considering that this is part of the head and it's aluminum, don't want to gouge it, so I'm going to be using an old plastic card as a scraper. Probably shouldn't use metal on that, but yes, you can if you're one of those folks who likes to live dangerously. Ta-da! So this side cleaned up really nice. It took almost no effort. The other side is got some more baked on oil and grease, so that'll require a little bit more effort. Probably not much with the bit of application of non-environmentalist friendly spray, but I'll save that for later when I get the heads off this thing. So now I need to pull out the angle grinder so I can cut these metal straps and get that plate out to check if it will fit in that opening. I swear every time I go to use the angle grinder, it always has the wrong wheel on it. All right, let's see if this fits. I'm not going to be able to do that one-handed. One moment. And it does... Oh, you can't really tell. It does not fit. There. I won't focus. Anyway, yeah. So I either measured wrong, which is more likely, or they cut it wrong, which... I don't think that's the case. So I will go get the tape measure and we'll check. All right, got the tape measure, and if we look, we can see that indeed I measured wrong. So in keeping with the tradition of measure once, cut twice, that is 13 1/4, and I had them cut it at 13 1/2. So I'm gonna probably actually shoot for 13 1/8 or so, because we've got a fair bit of wiggle room on both sides. Okay, we got our marks. Just draw our cut line, and then we'll go to sleep for the night and probably cut it tomorrow. Maybe not. Yeah, so I forgot to use the plasma cutter. I have to actually get the plasma cutter out of a box, and it's that box right there at the very bottom center of the big wall of boxes. Okay, I got the plasma cutter out. It's actually not as bad as I thought. I forgot I'd removed some things from those other boxes. So this is the plasma that I have. It works fairly well. It's a little finicky getting the arc started sometimes, but otherwise it's pretty good. Just forces you to become skilled with maintaining proper speed of cut and all that stuff. So anyway, we do have a little bit of a problem. So here is the outlet. It's 240 volt. It's just like a giant version of a regular North American 120 volt outlet. But the outlet I have in the basement here, well, it's hard to see. Oh, there we go. Okay, so it's similar, but it's got those angled. You can see that one. That will shoot. Anyway, yeah, it's angled. So what we're gonna have to do, unfortunately, is just make some adjustments to this so that it will work. I'm just kidding, we're not doing that. So what we've got on the outlet is a 1050, and what we need is a 650. So it seems that they sell adapters at the hardware store for like 60 bucks. So that's an option, or I guess I could swap out the outlet. But either way, I guess I'm gonna have to do something to get this welder to work. So that'll be it for tonight, and we will pick back up some other time when I figure this out. So it is a new day, and I'm just about done with all the electrical fire hazard fun stuff. This is the original receptacle that was on the wall. It's the 1050R style. And what I ended up replacing it with was not actually directly the 650. I replaced it with a 1450. Here's the plug, so that's what the plug side looks like. I then got this 6-foot cable from the hardware store and wired that up to the 650 box. Oh, fun fact, the old style Leviton boxes do not line up with the new style, apparently. The mounting holes are spaced just far enough apart that I had to drill a bunch of holes. So fun stuff. Anyway, if anyone ever needs to make one, this is how they're wired up. Green goes to the center. The two live go on the outside. It doesn't really matter. And then the neutral, the white, is unused, so that one gets cut and capped. You do want to make sure you cut the white short enough that it cannot, if that cap falls off, you do not want it to touch either of the two lives. So got to cut it back to like at least here. I cut it way shorter, and that's perfectly fine. If the white touches the box, it shouldn't really do anything. And so anyway, I'll just screw this together, and then I should have a working plasma cutter. And and one of the reasons that I did go with the 1450 style is you could do other adapters. You could actually convert it to 120 volts as well. So now I have a power outlet that will do whatever voltage I need. By the way, if you make one of these for yourself, don't forget the stress relief for the cable. Cables are people too, and they do not like to be stressed. And we have a red light. That looks promising. Let's see what happens. Hooray! Well, that's exciting. So one of the reasons I really wanted to do the 240 volt instead of using 120, it came with this adapter, by the way. You can run it on 120, but even with the 20 amp breaker, it will trip the breaker after maybe 10-15 seconds of a continuous cut. So not particularly useful for making a 2-foot cut or 17-inch cut, whatever it was. It would stop. It wouldn't make it. It would die midway through. All right, we got the air compressor, plasma cutter powered up, air lines running. Got the plate with the guide that we can use, inflammable paper products nearby, shipping hazards at all points of egress. So we should be good to go. And I just got to find a spot to set the camera so I can film it. This is not the greatest point of view, but it'll have to do. So these work. That's exciting news. I thought they were ancient and dead.
Well, it's very much not dead. Okay.
Comforting, although a little annoying for plasma cutter compatibility. And the moment of truth. Hey, not bad. That ought to work. So I need to apparently spend some time readjusting my settings on the plasma cutter. Yeah, that's quite a lot. It's almost the same thickness as the the metal plate itself. That chisels off all of the crap. You can see my amazingly skilled hammer strikes all along here, little shiny spots. Anyway, so we'll just grab the angle grinder, which always has the wrong wheel on it. Alright, so hold on. There, now I'll turn the flashlight on. Okay, so it fits, which is pretty cool. However, there's apparently some unevenness to the engine, or asymmetry, I should say. So you can see how this kind of curves out here, but this is still before the curve. Down on this side, the curve starts kind of about here, and so that's touching at that point. But if we look at the other, so this is tight over here. Up here, look at that. The curve starts kind of over here, and then on this side, yep, it's touching right there. So weirdly, that corner and that corner need to be chamfered, rounded, something, so that it has a little bit more play. Because right now it's a super like there's no wiggle at all to that. So it something's gonna get messed up if I lift the engine like that, I think. All right, I give the corners a quick little trim here and there, and now we got some play to it. So very good. Next up is going to be marking out the holes and drilling those. Okay, so for the hole layout and alignment, I'm going to try on the passenger side rear. I have it lined up with that hole there, or I should say on the edge, and on the edge of that hole there. And I've got enough side-to-side play that, well, I'll show you. Yeah, see. So we'll be able to handle a little bit of misalignment. Let's get those marked out. I've got the intake sitting on top of the steel plate. Here you go, there's a steel plate. So what we'll do, instead of trying to measure all this out, we're gonna use the transfer punch set from Horrible Freight. I give them a hard time, but maybe it's just me, but it seems like they've gotten better in recent years. So anyway, the way these work, they've focus, nope. Well, okay, there it is. So that's a point. You set that into a hole, and then you use the thumb detector on it, and that makes a little divot in the steel, which you can then either hit it with the hammer more and eventually it will pass all the way through, or you could be smart and use a drill bit to drill where you've marked out the hole. So I'm going to mark these out and drill them, and that's not very exciting for a video, so I'm probably going to skip that. I guess I should show the marks, so it'll be really hard to see, but that little dot there, that's one of the transfer punch marks, divots, and there's another one. And for the record, the holes in the original intake are a 19/64. So I will be matching that. It's definitely bigger than the diameter of the bolt, so it gives you a little bit of play so that things can be lined up. And don't forget to DEBUR your holes. putting this on a nice machined flat surface that we don't want to scratch up. So we need these to be in good shape. It's also what separates the clueless masses from the truly skilled. So might as well make a professional product. It would be nice if the deburring bits, blades, whatever they're called, are more than just a single use though. It gets kind of expensive deburring things. Quick fitment check, and you can see all of the holes go all the way through as they should. It's a new day, by the way. I did drill the holes and deburred and everything last night, but today did the check, and then we're going to do the welding and hopefully get the engine hoisted up. Here's the plan. We've got this plate with all these holes drilled in it. I'm gonna be able to hopefully just pass a chain through, and I've got the sides marked out here. I've measured the midpoint of there, so should be 6 and what is it, 9? No, I forgot. The 16th mark past the halfway point, whatever that one is. And we're gonna weld that on there. I had considered doing 2 of these, to one here, parallel, to split the load, but I don't think it's necessary. It ought to be able to handle lifting that up just fine by itself with that one plate. I changed my mind again. I think I am going to do it like this. A little bit more comfortable with the physics of it. There's not going to be a center point at which it's bending about. The load will be a little bit closer to the actual bolts. So I'm gonna set it up this way, I think. Well, we got the welder set up, plugged into our new outlet with the adapter. Got this all measured out, ready to go. Got plenty of fuel sources nearby. So the only thing left to do is find a spot to set up the camera and do the welding. Not the best angle, but hopefully it'll work. What did we do? Nope, not that. Probably this thing. Well, this thing did say it was fused, so I'm thinking that means there's a physical fuse that blew inside it. We'll try with the beeper. Oh, guess it helps if I point the camera at the right thing. Let's try this one. I have no idea which side that is. Nope. Aha. Okay, so that's neutral, and that means that should be live. And yep, she's dead. Damn. Well, I forgot to start taking video. I've already welded the far side one on, and I was trying to dial in the welder. It splattered everywhere. I think I've got it set up a little better for this closer one. So weld that up and we'll take a look at it. Now it's hammer time. probably won't record all of this. Let me see if I can get the phone. Got this ridiculous contraption. The phone is in a clamp held by a magnet at an angle. Anyway, a weld. And it's a lot of splatter. Not as bad as the other side though. It is just crazy. Overall, not bad for having not touched a welder in over 2 years. They say you can tell a lot about a man's fabrication abilities by how crispy his gloves are. So this welder has a sticker on the back. It says it's got like a 40% duty cycle, but on the side it says NASCAR, so I just assume they mislabeled it on the back. They put the wrong sticker on. So we're just gonna continue cranking away with this thing. All right, back to the mounting bolts. So I don't know, I think these are probably M6. I don't know, these are M6 washers. I just had them in the cabinet. I've stacked 5 of them on here, and that brings us to, well, more or less the same thickness as that. It's a little bit less, but then when you add the thickness of the plate on, it should be a little bit thicker than that. The plate is not quite thick enough that you could just like bolt these on here without the washers. There's not enough thread. They bottom out. So this has been cooling off for a little while, so let's go ahead and do some. That needs a few more minutes to cool off, so we'll come back to that in a moment. Well, I haven't bolted it in yet, but that is what it looks like. So we will hopefully now proceed to some, if all goes well, non-destructive testing. We are bolted in, as you can see. So I just need to clean up all this mess so I can get the hoist over here, and we'll see if we can successfully lift this up. Well, we have a little bit of a situation, so let's step back. So there is our hoist, and as you can see, it doesn't quite reach where it needs to go. So I'm going to extend it out a little bit further, and yeah, we'll just see what happens. I can already tell this is gonna be exciting. There's a problem. I think there's a pretty good chance it's going to start to turn further. The lowest point is on the rear. That's where the oil pan sticks down.
It is close.
Hey, look at that. It's a flying onion. Wrapping paper off. An engine up in the air. Now I just have to get it back down again onto the engine stand. Update. So I guess I probably should have videotaped it, but I didn't. I did get this bolted up. So it's pretty straightforward. If you're not aware, the wide side goes on the bottom. I'm not gonna comment on that further. The narrow side goes on the top. The bolts that go to the transmission mounts are M10. So you get yourself an M10 bolt and a big oversized washer. You bolt this up, and in theory that would work. So, all right, this all did not go according to plan. Right, so the V shape of these things, the angle is not the same. The hoist is narrower than the engine stand, so you can't simply flip that one around and back it in and attach it that way and then just take that hoist away later. It doesn't physically fit in there with both the legs attached. Even with no legs attached, if you try to set that in there and you have the engine flipped around, the crane, the hoist, isn't long enough. It doesn't hold the engine far enough away from the base area here to give enough clearance to attach this. So the engine, instead of being, the right distance, the engine is like here. So like maybe if you're able to like shove this thing several inches over, you might be able to get it mounted up, but didn't seem like that was working out at all. When you've got it flipped around this way, again, the engine isn't far enough out as compared to and I mean, that makes sense. Otherwise it'd be super unstable, right? So you can't have this thing kind of like in the corner. It just doesn't reach far enough over. So this is the only way that I could do it. And as a result, oh no, we're missing a leg. Right. Now I line up these wheels. So there and there, the center of mass of the engine is about here, and that is outside the line formed by these wheels. So that means that is unstable. If we take it off the crane, it will crash. So the only way I think I can move forward with getting this thing reassembled with that final leg is to go dig out the bottle jack, build up a bunch of crap on the ground to get it's kind of high up, to get the bottle jack closer to this thing, jack it up a little bit to support the weight, unattach take the chains off, fold the leg, or I guess I could leave the chains on, I don't know, but either way I got to get this leg out of the way from the hoist and then attach the leg. So not what I was hoping to experience, but yeah, at least there's a way forward. Still making progress. Nothing goes according to plan though. Well, came back down to check on this before going to sleep, and fun fact, it does not hold pressure. So this wheel is slightly off the ground because the arm is slowly descending. So now I have to put a jack or something under it to support it, because if I wait until I wake up, this thing may be Well, honestly, who knows? Not really sure, but I don't want to find out. All right, here's the setup. Pile of bricks, bottle jack, block of wood. I'm gonna just apply a bit of pressure and hopefully don't crush the oil pan. Ah, got it. Detach the crane, got that thing raised up, and the leg on. We've done it. It is fully on the engine stand. Look at that. All the legs are there. Cool. I'm gonna go to bed. Just in case it decides to collapse in the middle of the night, I've left a little bit of a cushion for it to soften the landing. It survived the night. Still attached to the engine stand, nothing has collapsed. I did rotate it about 45 degrees. It did piss all over the garage floor, so apparently there's still a bunch of coolant in it. But other than that, complete success. In conclusion, this engine stand from Hazard Fraught, the one with the crank thing, that works pretty good. I would recommend that. It rolls really well. It's really easy to rotate that engine. I absolutely do not recommend the the Amazon 2-ton jack. The wheels are garbage. I don't know if they could possibly select a worse caster for these, but they will not pivot when there's load on them. So you have to like kick them to get them to face the right direction, or yank on that thing really hard to get it to move. They don't, like, this is binding up and the brake is off. It will also tip over. Like, what in the world is that? So it will flip accidentally. It almost happened to me. If you bump those, the two legs will tip back and then the momentum will swing the whole thing. Horrible. Don't get it, but do get this. Now that you've watched me suffer through this, if you've got any suggestions on how other people can not struggle, please do post them in the comments, because it's too late for me, but someone else will probably appreciate it. So this is skipping ahead a little bit. I realized this will be slightly out of order, but we probably need to clear up the terminology in use here. So this is the driver's side, this is the passenger side, this is the rear, this is the crowd side. So just wanted to make sure that we're all clear on that, and there's no confusion going forward. I think what we should start with probably is the wiring. So we have to get all this stuff off so that we can get this thing apart. Let me just a quick thing about the wiring on this engine versus the standard 4.6 liter single overhead cam, which is what my GT's got. The connectors and everything are all the same. The wiring setup is a little bit differently on the Cobras versus the GTs, and this kind of follows the Cobra wiring pattern. The connectors for the plugs, the coil-on plugs, are flipped between the GT and the Cobras. So those would have to be, if I'm using the stock wiring harness, I would have to flip those. This connector will plug in, so I could actually, what I'm planning on doing actually is using this wiring harness for the Navigator engine, for the 5.4 liter, and flipping the pins in here instead. If you use the regular GT wiring harness, the stock GT harness, what you have to do is you've got to flip all these, or I guess you could do it in the connector too, but you also have to, oops, sorry, put my hand in the way. You also have to extend a couple of different sensor wires because they're too short on the GT harness. And I just don't want to do cutting and splicing into the wiring harness if I can avoid it. I would rather keep it all stock as much as possible, with as minimal changes as possible. So it sounds to me like the ideal way to do it is to just flip some of these around, and then it should plug right in. So that's my plan. So with that explanation out of the way, I'm going to try to not destroy any of this stuff, and we'll instead just remove what we don't need. I also, let me mention something else. I bought this from OEM Used Auto Parts. I asked them when I bought this engine what it came with, if it had the wiring harness, if it had the alternator, water pump, all that stuff. They said, when I talked to them on the phone, the guy told me that it comes as a completely stripped down engine. So they take everything off, they sell it all separately. The wiring harness is separate, the alternator is separate, all the stuff, as much as they can remove, is removed from the engine, with the exception of the intake and the fuel injectors, basically, because it's not worth all the effort and trouble to remove them. But otherwise, they said it would be all stripped down. So, surprise, surprise, when it arrived, it had all of the wiring on it, which, as far as I'm aware, that's not how they normally do things. So I don't know if the salesman that I spoke to was just an awesome dude and kind of wink, wink, nudge, nudge, asked the guys that were pulling this out of the wrecked Navigator if they could just sort of not remove a bunch of things from it, or I don't know how it played out, but either way, I've got a bunch of the wiring. They did make some interesting choices, though. So this, for example, is joined right here, not actually electrically. There's a little keeper that kind of makes them join together, but they're not connected. So this, I suspect, is for the transmission. I don't really know for sure, but it's not connected to anything. Maybe it's like a rear O2 sensor or something. I don't know. Anyway, we can take this off. There's also this. No idea what that's for. And they also made some cuts down here. That is, that's funny. It's a single tiny wire inside a much larger braided thing. Is that looks like it's supposed to bolt to something, and it's not. So I'm not sure what's going on there. Maybe it got crushed. It was leaned over to that side. Anyway, so that'll come off. I don't know what that is. There's this thing as well. I think I saw somewhere it said this is a big fuse. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe someone knows what that is. Anyway, I have it, but it's been cut, so I'm not sure if that's going to be useful at all. Anyway, we're going to pull off the stuff that is unrelated, and then I'm going to get out some tape and start labeling what these things are that I know. So fuel injectors are here, plugs are under here. These went to the stuff on the intake manifold. I don't remember which is which. This one on the driver crowd side of the engine is the idle air control. Yep, don't remember what that one is. That one might not have been plugged in. And then there's this gray connector here on a piece that is going to the EGR that I don't know what happened, but some hot gases were going through that. I don't know if it's going to focus, but it's pretty sure that was supposed to be where a tube plugs in, and melted off. So Don't know how that all played out, but interesting. I've got some like destroyed connectors. This I'm almost 100% sure was an OT sensor because it matches up with that one pretty well. And I think I may have the other half of this. So they like broke the connector, but in a way that like there's still a piece that's stuck inside. This end of it is okay, but the mating end is like halfway in here still and sheared off, so I'll have to try to get that out. There's some other things that I have no clue what these are, so I'm gonna probably leave those plugged in and unbolt them from the engine. And down here I think is a crankcase sensor, or sorry, crank position sensor. I'm fairly positive about that. And that one sadly got a little busted, so we may have to do some repairs there. And that came not connected to anything, so I don't know what that is. Maybe coolant related. All right, so that's yeah, we just wanted to document what I was working with here, in case there is, I forgot there's one. So that'd be the passenger side rear, the last injector has another one coming out. I don't know what this thing is, but it goes down through the valley and then it's bolted in right there. So yeah, interesting. Don't know what that is. But we'll put some tape on them, label them, give them some silly names that I can hopefully remember. I've labeled a couple wires. I also did want to mention I found another wire that I didn't go over previously. So it goes from the driver's side crowd and down here. So there's one that's going into the head, and then it continues, this little thing came off, but it continues down here. It wraps around underneath the oil filter, and I don't know if you can see that, but it plugs in right there. So that is very likely the oil pressure sensor, but this is also this is the coolant as well, so it could be coolant. I think this is almost certainly the coolant temperature sensor, because that's also where the coolant is. This is a big crossover pipe. I think the thermostat's right in there too, but it would make a lot more sense if that was oil pressure and that's coolant, because that's certainly not oil unless you've got a blown head gasket. I think I got everything labeled here finally, and I also, in the meantime, 3D printed a little arm gadget thingy, so I can put the phone up there, and I don't even know if it's aimed correctly. Okay, I added a little bit of extra light. I think I've got this aimed at the engine, so I'll switch it to time-lapse mode and I'll try to remove the wiring harness. Alright, we got it done. The only difficult part really was, strangely, the oil pressure sensor down there. I had to poke at the little latch with a wrench to get it to come free. This bolt here is not the correct original bolt. It looks close, but it's a 10 millimeter. This one is 8 millimeter. It's longer. This has got like a wiggly washer, and this is a shit, I forgot the term for it. Also, the the coil, the connectors for all the coils. This one still had the little push latch thing that keeps it locked in place, and all of the other ones are broken off. So that leads me to believe that someone had been in here before messing with things. So there was that, and then this particular hole here was one of those plastic spike things, a keeper. That one was not wanting to come out, but with enough force we were successful. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention there was this piece. That was interesting. It was both plugged into a connector and also had the little spike thing going into a piece on the wiring harness itself, so it was held there. I have no idea what that thing is. Is it a ground maybe? I don't know. Someone knows what that is, let me know. I'm kind of not sure. And that brings us to the present day. So I hope you enjoyed this video. In the next one, we are going to open this thing up, disassemble it, take a look inside, see what's good, see what's bad, replace some parts. I'm not sure if it will be one giant rebuilding video in one shot or if it'll be broken up. I imagine it'll be broken up a little bit just based on time frame of ordering parts and all that. So we'll see you next time.